It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Nigeria's capital of Abuja. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top stories. Niger vows to keep border shut until French forces exit Benin. Opposition political parties in Mali kick against recommendations of intra-Malian dialogue to head of the transition, Colonel Assimi Goïta.
Since the dialogue was announced, we made a declaration as the Appel du 20 février to save Mali that this dialogue will simply be a space for the supporters of the transition and the authorities of the transition to gather their people to continue the transition. It is quite clear to us. It is a non-event.
Guinea rules out any elections in 2024 following changes to the electoral calendar.
Certains ont estimé que l'objectif de la transition, c'est simplement
Some felt that the aim of the transition was simply to organize elections and then leave the trenches for others to sit on. This has been done in the past, and we have seen the damage it has caused the nation, simply because we wanted to move quickly without consolidating the foundations to organize elections.
And CSO in Liberia challenges President Boakai to make public his assets declared in the lead up to the elections. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone. Let's begin this afternoon in Niger, where diplomatic tensions has heightened with the junta reacting to Benin's blockade of its oil exports. According to Prime Minister Ali Mohamed Lamin Zain, the blockade imposed in response to Niger's border closure violates trade agreements between the two countries and with Niger's Chinese partners. The debate has now spilled into the streets of Niamey, the capital of Niger. Abdulhassan has more details in this report.
The Niger-Benin border dispute has been escalating since the Beninese authorities decided to ban the export of Nigerian crude oil to the port of Semikpoji. This decision has sparked a heated debate between the two countries, with Niger accusing Benin of hosting French military bases that support terrorists operating in Niger. In the Nigerian capital, the decision is being met with mixed reactions from the population. Some believe Niger has nothing to lose in this standoff, while others are calling for dialogue.
Of what gain will it be for them to block us? There are huge repercussions. They negotiated with the former regime and made a commitment. We have not been convinced enough that these two parties prioritize dialogue to renew the good relations that existed between them in the past.
Commenting on the development, Yero Ibrahim, an editorialist and publisher, says Niger has maintained its agreement with Benin despite the country's challenging times following the events of July 26, 2023.
La construction du pipeline a commencé.
The construction of the pipeline began before the National Council for Salvation of the People, CNSP, came to power. Despite the sanctions imposed on Niger by Benin and ECOWAS, Niger did not abandon its commercial agreement with Benin, which involved the pipeline. Initially, let me remind you, many Nigerians wished for this pipeline to be diverted and not launched towards the port of Benin. The state of Niger, before the CNSP, signed agreements, and the Nigerian authorities did not want to abrogate those agreements. They accepted them, even though they were not favorable to Niger.
Approximately 90,000 barrels of oil are transported daily from the Agadem site in Niger's Diffa region near the Chadian border for international sale. The first shipments of this oil reached Semi on April 21. However, since the coup d'etat of July 26, 2023 against President Mohamed Bazoum, relations have been tense between Niger and Benin. In addition to maintaining the border closure, the new Nigerian authorities have denounced the military agreement between the two countries.
Abdullah Hassan reporting there. Let's head now to Mali, where reactions from political actors are emerging following recommendations of the intra-Malian dialogue. The National Conference proposes extending a transition period from 2 to 5 years and also supports the candidacy of Colonel Assimi Goïta. He is expected to receive the final report from the dialogue today. WDR's Echa Atisu report.
Since its launch last April, opposition parties in Mali have consistently boycotted the dialogue initiated by the transitional authorities, criticizing it as non-inclusive. As the consultation committee presents their main recommendations, President of the Consortium of Civil Society Organizations and a member of the Appel du 20 février, Badara Alusako, describes the work of the committee as insignificant.
Since the dialogue was announced, we made a declaration as the Appel du 20 février to save Mali that this dialogue will simply be a space for the supporters of the transition and the authorities of the transition to gather their people to continue the transition. It is quite clear to us. It is a non-event. It is the authority that has been maintained by the arms, in the arms of the people.
On the side of the Rally for Mali, Rassemblement pour le Mali, they believe this dialogue is unnecessary. Sekou Niame Bathili is a spokesperson for RPM.
The key actors involved in the country's reconciliation processes in Mali were not present at all. All those who strongly oppose our position, they should not sit in for a dialogue in the same circle. I think that money played a key role in this excessive dialogue.
In contrast, Nuhum Togo, one of the transition supporters, favors these recommendations but believes the presidential election should be organized quickly.
We need to find a middle ground so that we can go for the elections at least within 2 years, so that we can move away from these cases.
The transitional president, Colonel Assimi Goïta, is set to receive today the final report from the Inter-Malian Dialogue Committee. He's calling for the urgent implementation of the recommendations.
A chat is a report in there. Well, talking about elections now in Guinea, there will be no local legislative or presidential elections in 2024. This decision was announced by the Prime Minister over the weekend. However, it stated that a referendum will be organized by the end of the year to establish a new constitution for Guinea. According to Bauri, the revision of the electoral register from 2020 as desired by the opposition is not currently on the agenda. Instead, he announced an administrative census. Francis Boniface has the details.
The transitional prime minister in Guinea, Amadou Ouriba, remains firm in his stance against expediting the return to constitutional order, indicating a lack of anticipation for a swift resolution.
Certains ont estimé que l'objectif de la transition, c'est simplement
Some felt that the aim of the transition was simply to organize elections and then leave the trenches for others to sit on. This has been done in the past, and we have seen the damage it has caused the nation, simply because we wanted to move quickly without consolidating the foundations to organize elections. And as a result, we've lost more than 15 years. Guinea is in huge debt.
On a perdu plus de 15 années. La Guinée est impactée par ce lourd passif.
Despite socio-political actors in Guinea calling for elections by the end of 2024 and advocating for the revision of the 2020 electoral register to facilitate the civilian transition as per ECOWAS agreement, Prime Minister Bawouri opposes these demands.
Use the old document at the risk of repeating mistakes more serious than those we have experienced? No.
The inter-Guinean political dialogue has stalled since the previous government's dissolution, with Prime Minister Bawouri's efforts to reignite discussions proving unsuccessful.
Political dialogues on a more inclusive basis have been launched, but you know that in politics, it's difficult to have everyone on board at the same time.
Recently, under the Union Sacré platform, socio-political actors reiterated the importance of adhering to the ECOWAS timeline, warning that they will not acknowledge the transitional authorities beyond 2024.
Francis Boniface reporting there. Meanwhile, Rwandan President Paul Kagame is arriving in Guinea this Monday after his 48-hour visit to Senegal, where he met President Bashir Diomaye Faye. Kagame's trip to Conakry aims to strengthen diplomatic relations between Rwanda and Guinea. Guinean Transitional President Mamadi Doumbouya is expected to welcome his counterpart at the Ahmed International Airport. Conakry and Kigali have long-standing relations spanning decades in mining, human resources, and security sectors.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, let's take you now to Ghana, where the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Suman Bagmi, has recalled members of Parliament from recess for an emergency sitting. The recall follows a petition from the Majority Leader, Alexander Fenyo Makin, requesting the sitting to consider outstanding government business. In a letter directed to the Speaker by the Majority Leader, reference was made to the Constitution and Order 53 of the Standing Orders of the Parliament, which authorizes 15% of the House members to request Parliament recall. WDL's Nadine Tete-Nakra report.
In a statement issued by the Office of the Speaker of Parliament over the weekend, pursuant to Article 112 of the Constitution and Order 53 1 and 2 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, the Speaker was summoning the House to sit on Friday, May 17. Parliament adjourned on Wednesday, March 20, 2024, without approving President Akufo-Addo's ministerial and deputy ministerial nominees in reaction to the presidency's refusal to receive the Human, Sexual and Family Values Bill, popularly known as the Anti-LGBTQI+ Bill, citing cases challenging the constitutionality of the bill at the Supreme Court as basis. The presidency further directed the House to cease and desist from presenting the bill until the Supreme Court fully deals with the matter. The Majority Caucus, which invoked this emergency recall, is seeking to address key government business items, including the adoption of the 34th report on the Appointments Committee. They also want Parliament to be recalled to consider a motion for an additional financing agreement between the government of Ghana and the International Development Agency for an amount of $150 million to finance the ongoing Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project, and also a request for tax exemption for selected beneficiaries under the One District, One Factory program. For WADR, Nadine Tete, Accra.
Meanwhile, following the growing acceptance of crypto business in Nigeria, experts are calling for the advancement of strategies to block associated crimes to allow for a safe ecosystem. To this end, a training has been organized for some officers of the Nigerian Interpol over the weekend in Abuja, the nation's capital. Usman Mara reports that the training centered on mitigating crimes involving virtual assets, particularly stable coins.
According to the experts, cybercrime already transcends the use of sanction, with the current adoption of virtual assets leading to criminals leveraging these assets to carry out various cybercrimes. At the training organized by two financial organizations, A&D Forensics and the Africa Stablecoins Consortium, to better equip officers of the Interpol in Nigeria on how to detect cybercrime, especially in the area of cryptocurrency, a blockchain forensics specialist, Chioma Onyekelu, and a senior partner at A&D Forensics, Mr. Adedeji Owonibi, said as cybercrime incidents increase, the Interpol needs capacity building to match up to emerging challenges.
Recently, there is an increase in the use of stable coins for crypto crimes. So we are hoping that at the end of this training, the Interpol will be able to learn how these crypto activities happen, and they'll be able to learn how to use blockchain analytic tools to track and trace any crypto crime involving not just cryptocurrency, but also crypto stable coins as well.
You know, cryptocurrency is becoming very endemic, and so that we explain to you that there will also be a lot of criminal elements using it within our country. Because we have a forensic lab, we discovered this gap between the crime itself and the law enforcement in the country.
Managing Director, Africa Stablecoin Consortium, Mr. Uyoyo Ugedengbe, explains that while the training would provide the Interpol requisite know-how to investigate stablecoin, creating blockchains compliant with local laws could have ripple effects on the Nigerian economy.
If for nothing else, it will reduce the reliance on dollars and dollar-backed stablecoins in Nigeria.
The training, which was under the theme Mitigating Crypto Crimes Using Regulated Stablecoin, is expected to further enhance authorities' effort at tackling the rising waves of cybercrime, not just in Nigeria, but in the continent at large. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and our partner stations across the sub-region. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Niger vows to keep border shut until French forces exit Benin. Opposition political parties in Mali kick against recommendations of inter-Malian dialogue to the head of the transition, Assimi Goïta. Guinea rolls out any elections in 2024 following changes to the electoral calendar. And still ahead in the news, CSO in Liberia challenges President Boakai to make public his assets declared in the lead up to the elections. And we do have the press review segment, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
We're streaming live on wadr.org, YouTube, and Facebook. Let's head now to Liberia, where a civil society organization, InfoQuest Liberia, is challenging President Joseph Boakai to walk the talk by making public his assets he declared before the anti-corruption body. At the height of the 2023 political campaign activities in Liberia that brought Boakai to power, he vowed to declare and make public his asset if elected. However, he is yet to honor his words months after he was elected into office. Executive Director for InfoQuest, Matthias Yanai, argues the president's refusal to make public his assets undermines transparency, accountability, and his overall fight against corruption.
Is deeply concerned by this blatant disregard for the law and the president's failure to ensure compliance within his own administration. We call upon President Boakai to take immediate decisions, action, and decisive action to rectify this unacceptable situation by doing the following: publicly releasing the complete details of a personal assets declaration, setting an example of true transparency and accountability that he promised the Liberian people, issuing a clear and unequivocal directive to all his appointees, mandating them to file their asset declarations within a specified time frame, even though it is long overdue. Failure to comply should result in swift, appropriate disciplinary actions, including suspension and dismissal if necessary, as a demonstration of the president's commitment to upholding the law and ethical conduct in public service. Ensure that the LSCC and other relevant agencies are empowered and supported to enforce the provision of the National Code of Conduct without fear or favor.
Executive Director for InfoQuest, Matthias, you're now speaking there. In the meantime, civil society organizations in Africa with support from Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights, West Africa Regional Office, WARU, have called for the promotion of legal migration and the protection of migrants. The call was made during a panel discussion at the Forum on the Participation of NGOs in the 79th Ordinary Session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights in the capital, Banjul. Our Banjul correspondent Sankuli Janku attended the forum and has the details in this report.
With the support of the Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights, West Africa Regional Office, civil society actors held a panel discussion emphasizing their role in promoting and protecting migrants and children's rights. The panelists highlighted various factors, such as the lack of safe and regular migration pathways, leading to increased irregular migration and reliance on smugglers in West Africa. Momoto Maiga, the Executive Director of Institute for Research and Promotion of Alternatives in Development, shared insights during the discussion.
Also, with other kind of relationship between our countries is becoming very problematic, because in some regions like West Africa, because of the militarization of some borders, there is a very threat against the integration of this region.
Maurice Anyim, the national coordinator of the Child and Environment Development Association of the Gambia, also shared some insights on the subject.
Political instability, conflict, and environmental problems, up to harmful traditional practices, are some of the issues that have led our children to leave their home and flee to another country. And while on that process, they could face a lot of risk.
Touching on the significance of the relationship between the CSOs and the UN systems, Nimo Ali of Candle for Hope Foundation highlighted the challenges of the CSOs face in the course of their work.
UN agencies in this case could work collaboratively with NGOs to produce evidence-based research reports that can highlight the challenges faced by migrants. The challenges we face as local NGOs are multifaceted, ranging from uninclusive migration policies for migrants, border corruption, evolving migration trends and conflicts in neighboring countries, compelling citizens to seek alternative solutions.
The CSOs criticized the scrutinization of migration and the tightening of border controls in West Africa, exposing migrants to higher risk of human rights violations. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankuli Jenka reporting from Banjul.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Well, let's head back to Abuja as we join Usman Mara for the Newspaper Review.
Hello and welcome to today's edition of the Press Review with me, Usman Umar from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Quite a lot of national dailies before us, but as time permits, let's begin with the Abuja Inquirer. Abuja Inquirer says 20 times in 12 days, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company failed to provide power. With two riders for this particular story, blames technical faults, inclement weather, and another rider, residents slam Koi, wants new owners. Of course, electricity in the nation's capital has been very epileptic in the past 2 weeks, of course, and the company in charge of providing electricity, that is Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, has been given reasons as to why there has been so much, absence of power in homes in the nation's capital. Definitely, the minister has also come out on Friday to call the company to order to ensure that whatever challenges they are facing are, resolved in very quick time. But quickly, before we take leave of this paper, Abuja school family settle to immortalize 4-year-old Miguel. Remember the story. Institute 150 million naira endowment fund. Tariff hike. Labour pickets Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission discos, that is distribution company offices today. Tariff hike. Remember, the federal government approved the increment of electricity tariff last month. And finally, before we go, let's take a look at Business Day. Business Day is leading with this story. Weak Naira, rising inflation signal further rate hike. Of course, the Naira seems to be losing its grip against the dollar. The strength it garnered last month, which led to some form of celebration. That celebration is being short-lived because, as we speak, $1 is now said to be exchanging for around 1,500 Naira. And this is the much we have for you on today's edition of Press Briefing as I hand you back to the studio. My name is Usman Umar from Nigeria's capital, Abuja.
Usman there with the Newspaper Review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, let's take you back to the report on the diplomatic row between Niger and Benin. Over the weekend, Niger responded to the Benin banning its oil export from its country. In its response, it said there are at least 5 French army camps in northern Benin near the Niger border, alleging that terrorists are trained in some of these camps to come and destabilize Niger. They warned that Niger will keep its border closed until Benin decides to address this essential issue. In a follow-up to this development, governance expert Austin Igbe gives his views.
This is only laughable. Only laughable in the sense that you want your interest protected and you don't want the other country's interest to be protected. You drove away France. You want your neighbor to drive away France because France has become your enemies. So it should automatically be the enemy of your neighbors. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So today you are having a relationship with Russia and Chinese. So the Benin now says that for us to open up our path, for us to open up our waterway for you to pass through, we need you to cut ties with the African core, that's the Russian groups, or Russia itself. Cut ties totally from Putin. How would you feel? This is not possible. Benin and France tie has not been cut. It's still very effective. And I'm sure Benin still rely on France very well. In any case, even the same Niger, have they cut their tie fully from France? Have they totally abandoned the currency? Have they? Let them abandon the currency. Abandon everything that look like France. Then we can be so sure that they have cut off ties totally with France. You can't determine for a country.
What would you suggest should be the solution to this problem? It appears that it is actually growing and we don't know what to expect next.
And for Benin, I think we're waiting for the Benin president to respond. I think that to solve this impasse, maybe they have to remain in the status quo. Niger has declared war on Benin. That is what it meant. Because you are housing France, you are now our enemy. That's clearly what it means. So a possible solution in place is that Niger, we have to find an alternative path, either to go through Togo, who is more of their ally, or create the path through this desert up to Algeria, and then use the Algeria Mediterranean as is to pull out. Pulling it through the Gulf of Guinea is no longer realistic, unless they want to come to the table to negotiate.
Austin Igbe is a governance expert. And here is Sport News with Sankle Janko.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Morocco's RS Berkane will head to the next weekend's Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup final second leg with a 1-goal advantage after edging Zamalek 2-1 in the first leg of the double-legged affair at the Berkane Municipal Stadium on Sunday evening. First half goals by captain Yusuf Dayo as well as Adil Taibs ensured the two-time champions head to Cairo with a slender lead for what promises to be a highly entertaining second leg final in Egypt according to the CAF official website. The return leg is scheduled for Sunday, 19 May in Cairo, with the kickoff set for 1900 hours GMT. And in basketball, AS Douane claimed the last ticket for the 2024 Basketball League ball playoffs thanks to a comprehensive 79-54 win over Rwanda's APR on Sunday at the Dakar Arena in front of President Diomaye Faye of Senegal and Rwanda's Paul Kagame. This was a do-or-die clash for both teams, but the 2024 Sahara Conference hosts pulled off a dominant performance to advance to the next round for the season in a row. The Senegalese side went on to win 79-54 in front of their home crowd. With the win, AS Douane secured the last playoffs tickets, joining Al Ahly SC of Egypt, Al Ahly of Libya, FUS Rabat of Morocco, Rivers Hoopers of Nigeria, Pedro Luanda of Angola, Cape Town Tigers of South Africa, and US Monatia of Tunisia. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And that's it in this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. And many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudu for the technical support. So let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, RWDR News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship health program, Well Buddy. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM.